If you want to buy a hybrid car for under 200,000 yuan, this video features two models that are very representative and competitive on their own and joint venture sides. One model is the Sena S7 200 Max to my right. Awesome. Onto the practical value of making. And this one on the left is a Shizun e-Power with an official price of 109,900 yuan. Both are extended range hybrid models with their technological principles, including driving dynamics and adaptability differences. In this video, we will discuss the differences between these two cars. Although both vehicles are range-extended hybrids, their technological approaches differ significantly. The 200 ml version of the stretcher comes with a big battery that can support 200 kilometers. My friend's electric car has been parked for over 2 months now and has already driven more than 4,000 kilometers. But without using up a whole tank of gas, we see that its displayed pure oil range still has. Its larger battery allows it to be used as a pure electric vehicle under convenient daily charging conditions. A pure electric range of 200 kilometers essentially means it can be charged once every 3 to 4 days, so it's also eligible for a green plate. The one on my left-hand side is mine. The flagship e-Power has a small battery of less than 2 degrees from the domestic battery factory Shenlan, but despite its size, it can support up to 30 years of charging and discharging. This so-called flash charge and discharge, so although it has a small battery of less than 2 degrees, it can support dual motors front and back. The power output is limited due to national policies, so it currently cannot have a green license plate, meaning it cannot be exempt from purchase. When I bought this car, the original technology cost an additional 17,000. The mess of fees totals nearly 220,000, so a green plate and a blue plate, the two cars have significant policy differences, and in the core power part, they are very different. This one is from the basket area, its booster is 1. This 1.5 litre 4C. The maximum output is 95 horsepower, and this model, being 1.5T, can reach up to 144 horsepower. Additionally, it features a single rear-mounted Western electric motor with a maximum output of 320 Nm or 238 horsepower, while this car has dual motors front and rear. The total output can reach 340 horsepower, 525 Nm. So, in terms of power, the Cavalry e-Power is far superior to the Basket 7 we tested. With 2 people in the car, it can basically run to... It took 7 seconds, and for him, it took over 8 seconds. Although this vehicle is driven purely by electricity, because of its product is more oriented towards home use. So its overall power. The output is very well tuned. The ride is smooth and not at all aggressive. The throttle pedal is of this accordion type, making the whole feel of the pedal and the throttle opening and the entire power output very linear, not jittery at all. So regarding the range extender technology, what are the differences between these two cars? First, let's talk about this S7. It's used for daily driving. When the battery level drops to a certain threshold, the range extender kicks in. Of course, if you switch to mountain mode or long distance mode, the range extender can also continuously start to generate electricity to charge the entire battery, maintains more electricity, but this car doesn't have as many options. Its small battery means you can't control how much power it has. It's like a tiny face.
And pretty awesome.
Forget it, you drink
like
it.
Like a buffalo.
Keeps pouring water in while another faucet keeps flowing out. By quickly flowing in and out, please support by subscribing to both front and back chains. This leads to a problem, which is that its engine often needs to start, causing the engine to also start sometimes when I'm idling at a red light, and then it charges the battery. At this point, you might find the sound rather rough. Compared to the Deep Blue S7, this Deep Blue S7 can very comfortably and freely adjust the entire battery level. If you want the engine to start, it starts. You don't want the engine to start, there's a whole bathtub of water, a whole bathtub of electricity at your disposal for managing both oil and electricity. The space is yours to command. Greater freedom is desired, so the car tries not to start the engine when unnecessary during daily driving, also improving its tranquility. Tranquility is key here. A major difference in driving the car daily, the rest I let me. The least satisfying point is when its amplifier is driven, the overall sound and vibration are relatively noticeable. Compared to this S7, the entire range extender of this S7, although you can also feel slight vibrations when it starts. In terms of overall NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, I believe it is one of the best models under 200,000. Additionally, in daily driving, since both cars are powered by electric motors, so driving them feels equally smooth and silky, but in terms of handling and suspension, the two cars demonstrate quite distinct differences. Don't be fooled by the flagship, the Pavo, which looks better on the outside, looks more heroic and imposing. But the chassis of this car is actually very soft and comfortable, plus its body is relatively high, so when I drive this car, when passing through bumpy sections, the body sways quite noticeably, but at the same time, because its rubber sleeves and shock absorbers are set softer, even if you are tall. When going at a high speed over big ditches and bumps, you won't feel a particularly harsh shock. Additionally, the steering wheel of this car is adjusted to be relatively gentle. This also led to me often feeling that this car is not easy to keep steady during the recent New Year's and Spring Festival long-distance driving on the highway. Steady progress forward. When you hold it, the steering wheel involuntarily shifts to the side because it has a lane deviation function. So sometimes the car body has to shake left and right. Driving the S7 gives a distinct impression. Firstly, its chassis is firmer and the whole body's compact texture is finer, perhaps due to its weight. With a relatively low center of gravity, plus a large battery laid out on the chassis, another reason for the lowering of the vehicle's center of gravity is its rear rotation, which uses a very large piece of aluminum alloy H. It saves space and makes the control in different directions more powerful, including the damping of the steering wheel. It will also be a bit tighter. So when I drive this car, it's somewhat comparable to this flagship model. I clearly feel that its directional control and center feel are more distinct at high speeds. Moreover, when passing through large bumps and potholes, you will noticeably feel its vibration damping to be more restrained, and the way it sways, it's much smaller than this car. So don't judge by its appearance, which is more refined and stylish, and even seems a bit more delicate compared to this flagship, but in reality I feel like it's the feel of driving on the highway. To be more outstanding, let's talk about some real data on energy consumption. For this car, after driving for over 2 months, the electricity consumption is 16 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and the fuel consumption is 5.2 liters, and when I first rode this car, I achieved a fuel consumption of 6.4. Then during the last Spring Festival, I drove it out. Because this car has already been driven close to 10,000 kilometers in total mode, the situation with whirlpools has also improved. So, the final thing I want to mention is a significant difference in functionality between two cars. One is all-wheel drive and has higher ground clearance. In our test, its ground clearance is also above 19 centimeters. However, its four-wheel drive does not have locks on both front and back, but as long as you ensure that the wheels at the front and back do not slip at the same time, this car has no problem handling some general bad roads. It's totally fine. This car is simply rear-wheel drive, plus its chassis is relatively low to the ground, so its main use is more on city-paved roads. In terms of adaptability to various road conditions, this flagship is obviously more outstanding. As for the intelligence inside the vehicle and the cockpit experience, obviously joint venture brands can't compete with our domestic cars. Here's a simple example. Suppose you get in this car, we all set the navigation, and at the same time you also want to listening to music. When you're listening to music and the navigation voice keeps interrupting, what do? In that case, I can only turn off the navigation sound, but this car is different. Because it has a speaker at the driver's position, its navigation voice can only be at the driver, ringing by my ear through his. Making music can be undisturbed by the navigation voice. Your co-driver and passengers in the back can continuously enjoy music, while the main driver can listen to the navigation without interruption. Lastly, let's briefly summarize. In my view, these two models are in their own autonomy. Among the joint venture camp, it is a very representative and competitive. We can say the product strength of the two hybrid models is quite strong, and both are range extended. The chaos route is just that this car, because it can be externally charged, has a big battery supporting up to 200 kilometers of pure electric range, so it has a lot of freedom in power distribution, including daily energy consumption costs, including vitality and so on. These aspects need to have. It is more obvious. And what makes this car strong is its front and rear dual rotation. The four-wheel drive of the motor is not only powerful, but also very smooth. This car has 340 horsepower and accelerates in 7 seconds, but no matter how you drive it daily, you absolutely won't. Dizziness is also something I'm very pleased with, including our kids who often take electric cars like ride-sharing ones, or try out future models. They always check the back seat of the vehicle. I've never been dizzy. On roads or in some more confined bends, including when you make some overtaking decisions, because it has dual motors front and rear, so both its front and rear wheels can twist in real time. The whole car's posture is also relatively stable. This car and the entire power control is indeed more mature. If you ignore the brand level considerations and have a charging station at home, I personally am more interested in this deep blue region. Recommendations are indeed very cost effective, but if there's no charging station at home and charging is not that convenient, then what about you?